Hello, everyone. My name is Morushka Strach. I'm the Executive Director of the World Space Week Association, and it is my great honor to be able to say Happy World Space Week to all of you. Before we start today's webinar, which is going to be incredibly interesting, I would like to invite our World Space Week Association President, Mr. Dennis Stone, to say a couple of words and to say hello to all of you.
Hello, everyone. It's World Space Week, and what an exciting week it is. All over the world in some 90 countries, everyone is celebrating space and particularly celebrating women in space. And very briefly, World Space Week was declared by the United Nations General Assembly over 20 years ago. It's been growing and growing and growing. It's truly the largest space event on Earth and even beyond Earth. Today, we saw a video from a crew on the International Space Station introducing a video featuring the United States Vice President Harris that is designed to encourage young people, particularly girls, to pursue careers in STEM. And really, that's what this whole week is about. It's to encourage youngsters to really consider science and technology, engineering and math, and to look at space careers as a viable option for them. Indeed, space is hard, and we need everyone. We need the minds of all genders, races, nationalities, and religions to work together to help make space a reality. The next Elon Musk could be an 8-year-old girl in Africa, for all we know. And we need to nurture and give them all these opportunities to become a vibrant part of the global space community, because we need everyone. And girls also have incredible curiosity, and we were talking about earlier, make great nerds. So we need female nerds. Come on, all of you. So I just want to welcome everyone to the webinar. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for your support of World Space Week. Back to you, Marcia.
Thank you so much, Dennis, for these really encouraging words. They mean the world to us. I can say this as a young woman working in the space sector. It's because of your support and support of people on this webinar that we can actually do our jobs. Now, it is my great honor to present to you our moderator of today's webinar, Ms. Andrea Jones. She's a planetary geologist and the public engagement lead of the Solar System Exploration Division at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. She shares NASA planetary science research and discoveries with people all over the world and connects division scientists to and supports them in public engagement opportunities. Andrea is the public engagement lead for NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, and she helps lead an annual Dark Sky Festival in Death Valley National Park and a planetary science winter school for early career professionals at NASA Goddard. She also serves as the director of the International Observe the Moon Night. Thank you so much, Andrea, for being here with us today. And now I give you the floor.
Thank you so much, Mariska, and thank you so much to World Space Week for hosting this webinar. It is an honor and a pleasure to be here with you today and with our esteemed panelists here. So I will introduce everyone here, and then we'll get going with some questions that World Space Week has prepared. And then we'd love to hear from all of you. If you have questions for our panelists, please put them in the chat, and we will get to as many as we can today. So I'll begin with Dr. Suyun Yi. She is the South Korea's first and only astronaut. Dr. Yi was selected as an astronaut in 2006 out of 36,000 contestants who were vying for the title of South Korea's first astronaut. She launched into space on April 8th, 2008, and during her 11-day mission at the space station, she completed lots of experiments which contributed to South Korea's science textbooks. She was also on television, on science channels, talking about her work. Currently, Dr. Yi is working with the Studio XID, developing digital prototyping softwares as the head of global customer engagement. She's also working with a Silicon Valley-based company, Loft Orbital Solutions Incorporated, as their strategic business development and international partnership lead. Dr. Yi is passionate about nurturing the next generation of leaders in STEM, in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And she volunteers for nonprofits as an inspiring speaker and also lectures at the University of Washington and community colleges. So welcome, Dr. Yi.
Thank you.
Excellent. And now we have Kyle Acierno. I was told I needed to do that with an Italian accent, so I'm trying my best here. So hopefully I did okay there. So Kyle is the CEO of iSpace Technologies in the US, or iSpace Technologies US. And he joined iSpace in 2015 and has held leadership roles in offices in Luxembourg, Tokyo, and now the United States. So Kyle is an international expert in commercial space and a specialist in lunar exploration. So over the past decade, he has developed broad knowledge extending into space science, engineering, law, policy, finance, and business development. Kyle holds a master's degree in space studies from the International Space University in France and a bachelor's degree in international security from Simon Fraser University in Canada. So welcome, Kyle.
Thanks so much for having me.
And we have Dr. Sarah Noble as well. So Dr. Noble earned her Bachelor of Science in Geology from the University of Minnesota in 1998 and her PhD in Geological Sciences from Brown University in 2004. She now works at NASA headquarters, but prior to this, she spent time as a researcher at NASA's Johnson Space Center, NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center, NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, and had a brief stint working for Congress. Dr. Noble is the lead for lunar science within the Planetary Science Division at NASA headquarters. And she's also the program scientist for Psyche, which is a mission to a metallic asteroid, Viper, which is the Volatiles Investigating Polar Exploration Rover, which is going to the moon, and the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter mission. She's working to maximize the science that we will accomplish through the Artemis program, which will return astronauts to the moon and then take them onto Mars. So welcome, Dr. Noble.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I'll begin with a few questions for Dr. Yi, and then we'll move through with questions for all the panelists. But please, all of you, feel free to contribute and ask questions. And again, we're looking for questions from all of you in the chat as well. So, Dr. Yi, I'm going to start with a two-part question. So you were the first Korean to fly in space, which is amazing. What an extraordinary achievement. So congratulations. And I'm curious, did you always know you wanted to be an astronaut? And how did you prepare for this amazing job? How does one prepare to apply to be an astronaut? For those interested out there, what kind of tips should we be looking for in your journey?
Yeah, maybe many of the American kids cannot kind of empathize or sympathize with me, but many of the non-American or some small little countries kids might be kind of in same situation with me when I was a kid. Actually, when I was a kid and then kind of younger, we don't even have a space agency in Korea, and we didn't have a good economic situation either. And I even doesn't know about the term or kind of vocabulary astronaut at all. And then in my world, there's no space either, because we don't have any kind of spare energy to think about a space, or even, I don't think we even watch The Night Sky or something, because mom and dad, everybody's so busy, and kids, we always should do the homework and that kind of thing. And of course, sometimes we watch the sci-fi movie and that kind of thing, but the older people who do work as a space related, they doesn't look like us. And then all of them are kind of Western peoples and a tall, big kind of person. And so we just saw like it's a totally other world situation. And then I've never thought about the kind of career in space field or industry. And then we don't have even job or career in that field until I joined college or somewhere. Of course, when I was in high school or in college, we sent first satellite and we studied a little bit of the space program. But as a kid who never thought about the space, I just thought like it's not my thing. But luckily, when I was in PhD program, and Korean government decided to make at least one astronaut. And still, all of Korean people's reaction is, are they really do? Because always it's something really innovative and fun and exciting, cut the budget and then something to stop and not that very well. That's the situation of the little bit underdeveloped country situation. So all my friends said, even if they initiated, I don't think they can secure whole budget. I don't think they will keep doing. And even with Russia, at the time, many of the Korean people are not familiar with the Russian space program also. And then, yeah, I feel so embarrassed, but when I even apply for an astronaut program, I even doesn't know who is the Yuri Gagarin, even if I knew about the Neil Armstrong and Alan Shepard. So we were that much biased as a Korean citizen. And one thing attracted me is they said first Korean astronaut will take care of the space experiment in space. And I was the PhD student who does do the experiment every day in my lab, in my clean room. And then my just forethought is, what if I can do experiment in space instead of this boring lab? What if I can fly in there? But I was pretty sure that there might be a lot of incredible people and smart ass and all those kind of people. And then I was sure that I can make it final. But person who curious about everything, I was so easily distracted by anything. And I was always exciting to anything, whatever seems cool. So I just wonder how Korean government picked the astronaut, what kind of quality we should have, what kind of skills we have, should we have a right stuff or something to be an astronaut? And that's my question. And then my conclusion is, to know all those kind of things really closely and precisely, I cannot read newspaper article publish it until the several months later, or something will be hidden and something will be not told and that kind of thing. So if I apply for an astronaut, until I will be eliminated, I might see every single step and I can know what kind of skill and quality they will think. So my motivation is totally different from the being an astronaut flying in the space, more like a curiosity as an engineering student or engineer. But that helps me a lot because I became quite authentic myself to test myself, because my first question was how far I can go and then how qualified I can be. So it was my goal was not to be the final. My goal was test myself. Like if you do the medical test, you want to know what kind of disease you want to have and what kind of problem you have. And you really want to have a true fact of your body, right? Me, and how far I can go, how good I am for certain area of the being an astronaut. And that was the thing. So maybe it's kind of surprising or boring or interesting, but a little bit different from all other American astronaut, because many of the American astronauts, they always talking about, yeah, when I was a kid, I watched the Apollo mission. Or when I was a kid, I watched the shuttle launch on the TV, because for them it was real. But for me, it was just a movie. So it is a little bit different. Yeah.
Wow, that's so interesting. And what a neat perspective, and just thinking of opportunities that are before you and other ones that you have to really reach for and sort of design for yourself. That's amazing. Thank you. So I think maybe we'll jump around a little bit to hear from everybody here. So Kyle, I have a question for you. I understand that iSpace is the company managing the Hakuto team. Am I saying that right first? Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so this is one of the finalists in the Google Lunar X Prize competition. So can you tell us a little bit about Hakuto, its origin story, some of its successes, and what your plans are for the future?
Sure. So for those of you that remember, the Google Lunar X Prize was a competition launched in 2008. And at the time, it was the biggest prize competition that existed. It was a $30 million competition to be the first private company to land on the moon. And this competition inspired teams from across the world to come together and develop a strategy to develop a lunar lander and a rover to accomplish this mission. So there were 34 different teams. Team Hakuto was the team out of Japan. And it was called Team Hakuto because in Japanese, Hakuto means white rabbit. And when the Japanese look up at the moon, they can see the outline of a rabbit. And there's an ancient folklore story. It might be the same in some of the other cultures. I know in Chinese, they have Yutu, and potentially in Korea, they have something similar. I'm not sure. Yeah, they do. Okay, so like, yeah.
We have a 2 rabbit.
There are 2 rabbits. They've multiplied. Okay, great. So that's good. So yeah, this is a very famous folklore, and essentially in Japan, our attempt at the very beginning was just to create a rover, because it's obviously extremely expensive still to create both a rover and a lander. So we developed a rover. We worked on that for almost 10 years, and we were really successful in bringing a lot of people to participate. This is what I think was the most exciting part about the Google Lunar X Prize and Team Hakuto, is that it was a chance for everyday people to get involved. So we had pro bono members from around Japan join us every single week. And this was open for absolutely everybody. This was what was extremely exciting. Honestly, every single Saturday, we worked on Saturdays when I was in Japan. We'd go into the office and see the pro bono members. We'd have 50 to 100 people join these meetings and participate in any way they could. So it was all genders, all ages, participating in all aspects of this mission, not just engineering. So it was extremely exciting. Unfortunately, after 10 years, the X Prize ended. There was no winners, and Google didn't want to continue to host the competition. So we moved on. Now, the mission is still continuing. iSpace is still launching our first mission. About like a year from now, we're going to be launching the Hakuto R mission, which will be our first private commercial mission to the moon. We are scheduled to do another mission the following year. And now here in the US, we're actually building a larger lander to try to accommodate some of the bigger payloads, including those coming from the NASA CLIPS program. So the Google Lunar X Prize was essentially a really important opportunity for people to come together, for us to help raise money and raise the attention of the importance of space exploration. And I think from that perspective, it was an extreme success.
Fantastic. Yes, I've heard different perspectives of different participants, and it's really wonderful to hear, from one of the main, someone was in the thick of it and still continues to be working with that. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, I have a question for Sarah, Dr. Noble. So Dr. Noble, you have had quite a career as a lunar scientist and now supporting lunar science and exploration at NASA headquarters. So can you tell us a few more details about maybe some highlights from your career path that helped, get you where you are today? And also, what are you doing about to help with the Artemis program and to maximize our science return?
Sure. Andrea gave a quick summary of my history, and you can see that it was not a straight line. The best paths are not straight lines, so that's okay. I started my NASA career as a lot of people do, as an intern. I was an intern down at Johnson Space Center. NASA has a lot of internship programs. If you're interested in intern.nasa.gov, you can find all kinds of opportunities all across the agency. It's a great chance to sort of figure out what it's like to work at a NASA center and to do research. And I was an undergrad at the time, and I decided I liked research and decided I should go to grad school. In grad school, I actually got an opportunity to study moon rocks. Most of my thesis was studying Apollo samples. We still study those. I know it's been 50 years, but we still have a lot to learn from them. And there's still hundreds of scientists across the globe that are working on Apollo samples today. So it was great. Got a chance to do that. And then I took a quick detour and worked for Congress for a little while. I worked for the House Science Committee doing space policy. It's a very different perspective on the world and taught me a lot. I did not decide to stay working for Congress, but I'm really glad that I took the opportunity to do that. I went back to science. I went back to Johnson Space Center, actually, where my career started, and did a postdoc there. And from there, I went to headquarters, and then to Marshall Space Flight Center, and was doing research there, and then to Goddard, where Andrea's at, right? And spent a few years there doing some research too. But eventually, I decided to go back to headquarters. Not because I don't like doing science. I do love doing science, but at headquarters, I feel like I have the ability to not just, worry about my own little corner of science, but actually to see the bigger picture and to enable other people to do science and push science forward in a way that I just can't do on my own in my own little lab. Not that space weathering isn't super cool, but it's you get a bit of a bigger picture at NASA headquarters. So As Andrea said, I work on 3 missions right now: Psyche, let's see, Viper. I have to remember them all: Psyche, Viper, and LRO. So I'm the program scientist for those missions, which means I am the sort of liaison between those missions and NASA headquarters, making sure that they have all the stuff they need to do their science, and also that they are doing all the things that they should do to be a successful mission. So that's great. I get a little insight into all of those missions. I also work with a lot of research and analysis programs. So when people want to do research for NASA, they write us proposals, and I get to get those proposals reviewed and decide which are the best ones and what's the best way to spend NASA's money and get that research done. And then also as the lead for lunar science within the Planetary Science Division, right now a lot of my job is sort of to be this liaison between the human and the science side of the house, and make sure that as we are developing the Artemis program, that we're doing all the things we need to do to make science a part of that, to make science a driver there. And so, that's everything from working with figuring out how we train astronauts in geology, to figuring out how we select landing sites to optimize for science, to figuring out what kind of tools, and working with the folks who are developing the tools and making sure that they're actually the right tools that we need for science, to working with the community to figure out what our science priorities are for the moon and how are we going to get them done. And then eventually we'll get to a place where we'll be building that science team, and I'll be involved in trying to put that science team together, and making sure every step along the way that science is at the front of what we are trying to do with Artemis.
Well, thank you, Dr. Noble. That's so wonderful. I feel like your winding path and your time and policy, and with all these different NASA centers and with all these different scientists, really help inform the work that you're doing now to move that whole community forward and lunar science forward. So thank you. That's great. We do have a question from the chat. So Kyle, I don't know if you are able to see this. Would you like to speak to Adrian's question?
Yeah, sure. I mean, honestly, the Apollo landers were much, much larger than what we were building. iSpace is a commercial company. We get most of our funds from fundraising. We've raised about $199 million, which is a fraction of the amount of money that was spent on the Apollo program. So our lander is much, much smaller. It's much more simple. And of course, it's about 50 years newer. So the technology itself is very different. The last time Americans landed on the moon was in 1972. So obviously the technology has changed drastically. So we're using carbon fiber. I don't think carbon fiber was even around at that time. If it was probably in its infancy. So there's a lot of changes, but we still face a lot of the same challenges. And we're very lucky to be working with one of the best in the world, which is Draper. Draper helped develop the GNC to bring the Apollo astronauts to the moon. And we're also working with Draper so we can solve one of the most difficult problems of getting to the moon, the landing.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah. Lots to build on. What a legacy, though, to be working from and still informing, future exploration as well. So Dr. Yi, it's always fun to get the chance to ask about things that you knew were coming and things that you knew were going to be part of your mission. But it's also great to hear about those surprise things. So can you let us know something that was unexpected or surprising or really wonderful for you from your experience in space that you didn't anticipate before you launched?
Yeah, actually, that was really incredible and a surprising moment. I still remember is, of course, I cannot compare with the time when I looked down to the earth and then when I found out my own country and in my own hometown is the most incredible and memorable moment, even if it's not surprising. And you know what? That kind of moment reminded me of the time when I was in a kind of middle school or primary school, when I tried first hands-on science project. Even if we know the result, even if we know if you mix this and then another kind of vinegar, you have a soda powder, you have a vinegar, and it will has a kind of bubble like that, and you already know from the science book. But if you do really, and if you see the bubble, and then every kid's like, "Oh my God, there's a bubble," and that's the reaction, right? So I became totally like a kid like that because I know how Korean Peninsula looks like. And I know how small Korea looks like from the space station because we know all the numbers and then theories and then we know we cannot see whole Earth. We only see the curved horizon, kind of like that. But anyway, if I look down to my own country, my reaction is almost like when I was a kid, first time I see the bubble between the soda and vinegar thing. But most surprising time is most of the astronauts, they look down to the Earth during the daytime. What I mean daytime is when we had a sunlight on the Earth, like 45 minutes, every 90 minutes we have a sun, night and day. But I had a mission to set up telescope on the window for checking the air quality above the Korea. So I should set up the telescope during the nighttime, and then I should check the daytime. So I can open the window during the nighttime and look down to the Earth from the night kind of version of view. Of course, it's similar with all other space station photo, but what I really found really wonderful is it was during the April, so right before the summer. So many of the Southeast Asia, they have a typhoon and they have some kind of natural disaster around April and May. So I could see the whole typhoon formation of the cloud above the Malaysia, Indonesia around, and then even above that, they have a thunder from the cloud to the space. We always see the thunder from the cloud to the down to the Earth, right? But because I'm above that and I see some kind of like a thunder from the cloud to the space, because it's a kind of electric magnetic things, static electric thing. So, oh my God, it was almost like a series of the thunder, and it looks like a fireworks. That was an incredible time I saw, and I've never kind of expect that kind of things I could see. And I feel so grateful for my mission to set up during the nighttime around the Asian area. So yeah, that's the moment I remember as a first surprising time.
Wow, that is incredible. Oh my gosh. And I feel like I spend so much of my time just thinking about the beauty of science. I mean, the advances that we have are incredible, but really it's just remarkably beautiful and inspiring. Just the Earth, the world, everything in space. It's just, I have not heard about lightning from space. So that's amazing. So thank you for sharing that. And speaking of inspiring, so Kyle, we are in the midst of World Space Week, and you are one of the board members of this amazing program. So I'd like to see if you could share some of your perspective about why this event is so important, it's so special, and what it means to you as a board member.
Sure, thanks, Sarah. Yeah, so I was one of these people that hasn't been a space nerd my entire life. I actually became interested in space a little bit later in my life, mostly based upon environmental concerns on Earth and seeing what we can do in space to sort of try to alleviate that. So I first found out about World Space Week when I was at the International Space University. And since that time, I've really been closely following it. So almost for the past 6 or 7 years. Has it been that long? Wow. Yeah. So what I was really inspired by is just this collective nature of people around the world coming together to share this common fascination with outer space. I was moved enormously by the organizations and just the number of events that were happening. I think that just shows that, generally in the space community, we think it's pretty small. We go to a number of conferences, we see each other year after year, we have long-standing friendships. And so we think of the community as relatively small, but when you see things like this going on, it just shows you how much interest there is in space. This year we have about 1,600 events which are being organized only in Pakistan, just in Pakistan. You can go to the World Space Week website and click on Pakistan and see all of the different events that are taking place across Islamabad, for example. This is just one country, but it just goes to show you how much interest there is. There has been enormous marches in India. I saw like 1,000-person march of the girls and little boys, just again, showing their appreciation. And I think, as was mentioned at the beginning of the call, it's extremely important for us to continue to motivate people to get involved in this industry. Personally, I've been lucky enough to live in a number of different countries, and what I do see is that all of us in the sector in all the countries are facing essentially a lot of competition from other exciting sectors. And if we want to have thousands of people living and working in space. We need to encourage young people to get involved, to dream, to think about ideas, to become doctors, lawyers, to become engineers, to be science and technology, engineering and math. And so these kind of events are extremely important to helping them feel like they're a part of the community and supporting them every time they do things. So personally, I was really grateful to have this chance to be on the board and to participate and do whatever I can to ensure that more people know about this event and get involved and start organizing their own things and ideally join us in these endeavors that we're trying to accomplish.
Well, thank you so much. And indeed, we are all in it together. I mean, we as a human species are exploring the world around us and exploring space. And it's really wonderful to be, united with people around the world as we, ask the big questions and do the difficult things. So, and speaking of difficult things, so we have some more questions from the chat. Thank you everyone for asking your questions. And we have one from, I don't know who it came from, so thank you, whoever asked this, for Dr. Noble. They would like to know, what is the most challenging part of your winding career path?
I think it's now. I think, going back to the moon, going forward to the moon, as we like to say, is really hard. If it was easy, somebody else would have already done it, right? And so it is a challenge. It's a lot of working parts, and it is hard to do it in the middle of a pandemic, right? We've been doing it, from our home offices, and it doesn't, this is an endeavor that requires literally thousands and thousands of people, and we don't get to, talk to them, and so that makes everything a little bit harder. But we're finding our way, and just because it's hard doesn't mean it isn't worthwhile, right? And so, I think it's also probably the most rewarding part of my career, even though it is maybe the hardest.
Yeah, didn't we hear from President Kennedy? We're not going back to the moon, or now we're not going to the moon because it's easy. We're going because it's hard, and hard things motivate us and make us be creative and push our own boundaries. So thank you. And we have more challenging questions. So Dr. Yi, we have someone interested in what the hardest part was for you in your astronaut selection process. It seems like you were among many, many others interested in this position. So what was challenging for you, and how did you overcome that?
Actually, you know what? I believe not only myself, but also maybe Sarah and then all other females in space and STEM field feels kind of like the same. And even before applying for an astronaut process, even before starting the selection process, I have a same kind of a hardship and challenging and stress, because when I was in mechanical engineering department, I have 120 classmates and there's only 4 girls. And among 4 girls, only 2 girls in a really serious track for the advanced degree and then graduate school, kind of like that. So we always 2 of us. And most scary things among us it is, sometimes every people has a different talent and different weakness and different strengths. But if there's a few of the kind of category of the people, it's easy to generalize all people like that. For example, you are going to the school, but maybe in your school, there's only 1 Korean student move from the other state. And then that small little kids can be weak in the math, but everybody think, oh, Koreans are weak in math because they only see the 1 Korean person. So that kind of scary feeling is always we female has in a STEM field and space field, because I'm kind of clumsy. I made a lot of mistakes. I'm so forgetful. And then sometimes my mom just joking around me like, oh, thank God you remember your name. Because I always forget something. But in the STEM field and in selection process, I feel so afraid somebody's take my mistake as a whole female's mistake, whole female's weakness. So I should do my best to represent whole female better, same age span of the female, and then same background of the female. For example, a woman in engineering school always same, like a guy. I don't want to make those kind of stereotype because I'm Suyun. That's my stereotype, not the whole woman's, not all in same age. So that is the hardest part as a psychological mental thing. And then I don't know, some of my friends said that, So-yeon, you don't have to take that responsibility. And you just be yourself. You don't have to worry about a whole woman's image. But yeah, I don't want to cut the bridge for the people who came after me. I don't want to make the less opportunity for next female, because I don't want to make a bias for a lot of the male professors and seniors and higher positioned people who have a power to hiring next generation. If they have a bias about the female or a woman like me, it will huge influence to the next woman. So I don't think the person who questioned this asked this question didn't expect this kind of thing, but maybe Sarah feels same, and me and all my kind of colleague females has exactly the same stressful feeling as I talked with them, because they really want to open the door. They really want to encourage the other girls, but they don't want to cut the bridge and burn the bridge for them. That's the exactly same stress when I was in Russia to take a training, because double dip. I'm only the woman had a training at the time, and also only Asians and then only Korean. So during the training, if I made a mistake, I feel so sorry. What if Maxim think all Koreans are weak in this kind of thing? What if this general will not pick any woman at all in the future because I made a stupid mistake? So yeah, that was a kind of really hard part as a female, especially as a minority, extreme minority in the group.
Yeah, that sounds like a tremendous amount of pressure, and we all always try to do our best, but to think that you're representing, your gender, your country, other places. I mean, that's really quite a challenge for you, I'm sure, but also really amazing.
I add one more thing is and then because I feel so bad to make a bad side, but in same stress, I always find a positive thing also, because if you do your best not to make a mistake, if you do your best to be the best representative of your group, result will be yours. So that is a huge motivation to be better, to improve you. So it's not only bad side.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, you are certainly a role model to people around the world, certainly in your country, but internationally, all of you are. And so I think that's really, really wonderful. Also, it comes with some pressure, but it also comes with some opportunities. So I think that's wonderful that you keep that in mind and have it be a motivating factor for you. So thank you. This is great. We're getting more questions from the chat here. And so Kyle, I have a question for you that sort of is maybe another two-pronged question. So here in this panel discussing, promoting gender equality in the sciences, I wonder if you could address what iSpace is doing towards promoting, encouraging, supporting women and encouraging gender equality within your organization, but also given your role and your travels and where you've worked in space sciences around the world, if you have any thoughts and perspectives on, how emergent space nations are, addressing this and thinking of how, to get young girls from around the world, especially emerging nations, or emerging nations in space sciences, and giving them access to opportunities. Like, what are some ways that we can effectively, efficiently make changes and bring this not only to your company, but to a broader picture, if you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, thanks,
it's a big
Sarah.
question. Sorry, you can break that up a little bit.
Yeah, I'll take an attempt, but first, let me thank everyone for allowing me to be on this panel and be in solidarity with everybody about these issues. So I'll briefly introduce some of the things that iSpace is doing, and then I can talk about some of the things that I've seen globally and try to encourage this. So from iSpace's perspective, we have three main values that we use for the company. The first is respect, so interacting with each other in a professional and open-minded way. Integrity, so delivering our communication in a transparent and ethical manner. And then finally, diversity, where we're welcoming all people in a fair and equal working place. So those are the main values that we stand by as a company. Here at iSpace US, we are almost 40% women in the company. So we're doing our best to try to get that higher to equal or even above, if possible. And we're doing that in a number of different ways. So first, we have a woman on our leadership team, Kirsten O'Neill. She actually previously worked for SpaceX, and now she's engineering director and leader of our entire program here in the US. She has a team of over 20 engineers. She's leading while we build this much larger lunar lander here. And so if you're interested in learning more about her and her story, I encourage you to go to our website. And there's some excellent videos that we just put up, and really inspiring story. And if you don't cry, you can tell me, because I definitely did when it was finished. It was really good. We're continuously always doing our best to encourage women to join the company. We have over 15 jobs open right now, if you don't mind me saying. So please do apply, because we do want to provide this working space for all people. We pay based upon our experience and what they bring, and not just the previous salary. I think that in many instances, women's salaries have been lower than men's across the industry, and so we don't pay based upon that. We pay based upon the levels of experience and the years. So that, I think, try to promote a little bit of equity in the pay. And then finally, of course, we create the safe working space so that everyone does feel comfortable. That's just about iSpace. But what I've seen globally and how other countries or developing nations are doing this, I think a perfect example is with Dr. Suyun Yi. So having astronauts like in Korea, I mean, I can't even imagine, and just with your story right there, the pressure that you were under, but the inspiration that you gave not only to Koreans, but also to Asians across the entire world, and women to fulfill their dreams. I know another country that I'd like to bring up is the UAE. They have done a fantastic job in their space agencies to ensure that women are properly represented. They encourage women everywhere. And then I would say also in America, I mean, just having Dr. Noble here, you could see that like in NASA, there's just a tremendous amount of incredibly intelligent women, which are in very high level roles. So that, I think, really inspires women to work towards the highest ambitions which they could envision, which is probably not possible back in the day. So I think those are a few things that I've seen that have been done. I think that model should be encouraged and continued throughout the world. Most recently, I'm Canadian. Most recently, the head of the Canadian Space Agency is a woman, and I think that's the first time it's happened, or maybe it's the second. But again, we see this happening more and more. It's a growing trend. I fully support it. And if there's anything that we do as a company, it's just to promote how effective women are in these organizations and how much of a support they've been to bring us to the next level.
Wonderful. Thank you. That's really incredible. And yeah, I think that we have a lot of amazing people, here, of course, on the panel, but also within our chat room. And so please feel free to share ideas. This is a conversation across the world right now. It's amazing, all the different countries that are represented just in this conversation, which is really wonderful.
The agency is also led by women. I see in the comments.
Yeah, that's so great.
I'm sure there's more.
Excellent. So I have another question for Sarah. Sorry, for Dr. Noble. Oh my goodness, I'm working on this. It's been I've known her for a long time. She's amazing. So Dr. Noble, could you give us a perspective that I'm very eager to hear? So I can't believe that we are going back to the moon with people. And as someone who has been working in this field for a long time and with people around the world towards this next step to the moon with Artemis, can you let us know how you are feeling as we're about to send women to the moon for the first time? How's that personally feel to you?
Yeah, it is pretty incredible, right? And we've been very clear, NASA's been very clear from the start of this program, from naming it Artemis, right? That sending a woman is part of the goal, right? And it's not just about sending a woman, but about making sure that the whole agency, right, is involved in this and is gearing up for it. It's not tokenism the way the Russians, right, sent the first woman into space, whatever, and that was it, and they never had another woman astronaut again, right? Like this is the start of something new, something different. And when you look at the whole astronaut class that has been named for Artemis, right, it looks very different than the Apollo class, right? And you can see that it's not just about a tokenism, right? This is a serious commitment to diversity that NASA is engendering. And I've been thinking about this, right? And I think about, because I have been a space nerd my entire life, Kyle, sorry. And I think about that, that picture of Buzz Aldrin on the moon, right? And as soon as I say that, you're all picturing it in your head, right? Because it's one of the most famous photographs ever taken. It has been around the world 1,000 times. It's been reproduced more than almost any other photograph ever taken. And like the next time we get that photograph, it's going to be a woman. And that's the picture that is going to be sent around the world over and over again and reproduced a million times. And people, kids growing up, that's going to be the picture in their head is a woman, right? And that's pretty incredible.
That is incredible. And I'll follow up with that though, because you are now in a position at NASA headquarters that has, a lot of power and influence with that role in my opinion, maybe not in your own, but just within the role and within the work that you do, serving this lunar community, what are you doing to try to promote gender equality in space sciences? Can you give us some?
Yeah, I think Andrea thinks I have more power than I do, but but where I do have power, I am trying to use it, right? So I get to decide, for example, like I said, I do proposal review panels, right? So people send their proposals into NASA, I go out and find scientists to review them, and I get to decide who sits on those panels. And so, I make a lot of efforts to make sure that that who is sitting on those panels is gender diverse, is diverse in other aspects, so that when they're reviewing it, right, we get perspectives from all sorts of corners of thought, right? And so, so that sort of thing, right, where I do have power, I am trying to use it. So we're hosting workshops, we're having discussion groups, we're trying to figure out how, particularly as we move forward into this, era of Artemis, right? This is going to be a big building time particularly for the lunar community, right? We're going to need a lot more lunar scientists, right, to do this. And so as that community grows, this is really a big opportunity for us to diversify. And so we are being very thoughtful about how we're going about that and how we can bring in those communities and how we can engage with them. And so, where I have opportunities, I'm trying to use them.
That's wonderful. And I think this would be appropriate for Dr. Yi as well. So where are you identifying opportunities to, encourage, women in STEM, and also, what advice would you share with young women who are interested in getting involved?
Oh, yeah, thank you for the question. Actually, you know what? I always give some advice for the young women and females and girls, whoever ask me about the advice like you ask, and then it's really contradictory each other, but I always have in my mind, and then just forget that the fact that you're a woman, but in the same time, you should remember you are the woman. Well, when you should think in that way, because some of the women, even before trying, they just almost give up because they are women, and they just isolated in the fact that not that many women out there, maybe I cannot make it, maybe all the males are proper than me, and then kind of thing. But don't think in that way. And then it's opportunities for everybody. Of course, sometimes I cannot tell you there's no discrimination at all right now, even. And I cannot tell you there's a totally fair at all, but maybe many of you already knew that not only for the gender issue, but also for everything, we cannot have a perfect fair game or perfect right game at all in any world. Sometimes something happens, sometimes some other factors behind, but we cannot know, or sometimes it's some really ugly situation, but sometimes it's a really good situation, but I cannot understand well. So we cannot figure it out every single thing, but just forget what's your gender it is. You just do your best and then take the result as your result. And then I think that's the best way to embrace. So even, sometimes if I fail some opportunity and some of the people come to me, Suyun, you know what? You are the much better than other candidate, but only because of the gender discrimination, you cannot make it. But I'm trying to do my best not to hear that kind of, not that productive criticism or advice at all, because that's not helping me at all. So, okay, if you think in that way, you can take it, but I don't think. If I do more, if I make more effort, I think I can make it at the end at some point. Or in the meantime, I realize that that opportunity is not mine. I can go other way around. So I don't want to be kind of drowning with those not that good idea. But in the same time, if you are in a certain situation, I believe diverse is the best resource of any certain group. So because you can think of the think out of the box, and you can have an innovative idea. You have a totally creative idea if you have a different cultural background, if you have a different kind of academic background, or if you have a different family background, because we all sometimes are totally biased because of the environment we had, even if we didn't want to. So we should admit it. And sometimes I admit it, and then I'm totally drowning by the Korean culture and then Korean woman. And then sometimes my husband complained about that. You are a total engineer. You cannot get out of that. Yeah, of course, because I'm working in an engineering field for all my life. I should admit it. And then I tell, that's because I need you, because you are outside over there. You can think of something interesting and then advise me. So yeah, remember, you are special and you are different from the other male colleague, and you have a different cultural background, and then be proud of that. And then you will have a totally different idea to help them. So remember, you are a woman. We are special because we are minority. We always have a more innovative, creative idea. So you always have both two in your mind.
Thank you. Yeah, it's wonderful to hear all the different perspectives and how you internalize, the comments that you get from the world and figure out how to channel those that make you improve and help you get your job done, but try to filter out. There's always going to be someone who's not impressed, and trying to take that and learn from it and apply it in a way that's productive and meaningful is really great. Thank you. So I do want to make sure we hear from everyone on their advice, but we have another specific question for Kyle about what you feel maybe the most pressing legal and policy issues are concerning space and law. We have an attorney in the audience here who is curious about your thoughts there.
Oh, no, okay.
Maybe we don't have to go into crazy politics here, but just if there are any general things applied to, equality of women and men and different genders and backgrounds and ethnicities and other diversity issues related to that maybe could be maybe asking this in a productive way, like areas where you see either really impressive things or things to consider to improve some of those policies, perhaps in a way that would promote more gender equality in the space sciences.
Yeah, so I'll say two things about this. And as we're focused on the moon, I'll specifically talk about that. And something that I've seen that was done, and now something that is being done to address space and law issues. And then I'll encourage our Alexandra to look into this a little bit more so that she can learn about what's going on. So two things. Specifically for the moon, there was a group called the Hague Space Resources Working Group. This was made up of both men and women, academics, industrialists, engineers, scientists, who came up with 18 building blocks to help solve some of these biggest issues. I encourage you to check that website out if you want to learn more information about what was solved and what we came to the conclusion on. Now, since then, there's been another group, and this event is co-organized with the Moon Village Association. The Moon Village Association also has a group called the Global Expert Group on Sustainable Lunar Activities, called GEGSLA. Now, again, this is an international group made up of men and women from across the world. This is what's really impressive. There's a lot of people from China, from the US, from Africa, the Americas, Europe, everywhere. And they're all coming together to look at these issues collectively, to share their opinions respectively, and to come to an agreement so that we can try to define what some of these biggest problems might be and how we can solve them. So I'll direct you to those two websites. I think GEGSLA is also open still to members. And so if you want to participate, we welcome all that participation.
Thank you. That's really helpful. And we are now reaching near the end of our time together here. So what I'd like to do with our last few minutes here are to go around to each of the panelists and see if you have any further thoughts. We are concluding our Women on the Moon, Bridging the Gender Gap panel. So for our audience out there, Kyle, do you have any last thoughts you would like to share?
Just again, I would like to thank everyone for listening in and thank the panel for having me on. We have a lot to do over the next 10 years, and I'm with Sarah. This is the hardest time right now with Dr. Noble. I'm sorry, this is the hardest time, and we are needing intelligent bodies to help us I personally am extremely excited about the Artemis program. I'm extremely excited to have the first woman on the moon and the first person of color. And I'm extremely excited for all the things that are going to happen. So please join us, participate, look into iSpace jobs because we want to hire you. And if there's anything else that I can do personally, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful. Dr. Noble, do you have any last thoughts you would like to share today?
I just want to thank you for having me. This has been fun. This has been a nice conversation. I do want to encourage everybody to check out the research on diverse teams. There's a lot of research out there that just shows that having diverse teams leads to better outcomes. And as we keep saying, right, space is really hard. So the better outcomes you have, the better work can do. So it is maybe a selfish way to look at it. Diversity is great for its own thing, but it actually helps us, right? It is actually the way to get to the places that we want to go. And so,
Yeah, I think that's a really important comment. It's not only for those who are just interested in, the human aspect. Isn't that wonderful to have a diverse team? But yeah, there's research that shows we have, better accomplishments and better, teams make more money, teams make, more progress. So it's really in a company's interest or in a nation's interest to look for lots of different perspectives and have people work together to come up with new ideas and new approaches, because it's hard what we're doing, and it's good to have new, fresh ideas and perspectives. So thank you. And Dr. Yi, would you like to offer any last thoughts today as well?
Yeah, actually, it is a little bit connected with the comment I made before, and I'm always trying to do my best if there's any bias or kind of prejudice I had before, because we always can be the victim or person who make other victims in the same time. Because many of the women that we always got drowning because we are a woman, there might be not that kind of opportunity. But in the same time, we also have sometimes to give some opportunity to other people. Did I have any bias or did I do anything inappropriate, even if I believe myself is totally open to everything? But sometimes we just believe so, but we didn't do exactly like that. So I'm doing my best. Before convincing other people, I try to be the better example, or I try not to make a mistake. Because sometimes if I made a huge mistake with some kind of bias or kind of prejudice, it's really hard to convince other people to open more door for other people because they just pointed at me or think about myself. And then also, I feel so grateful to have a Kyle here. And I believe for more women in space, more women and female campaign, we should embrace more male, because male people is not the enemy, the person who we should work together. Because sometimes some people are thinking about the woman in space or woman in STEM, they just act like a lot of males already being in that field might be the enemy, but I don't think so. They should invite us, and then they should believe and trust that working with a woman is not that different from the working with the male. And then we should make them understand, make them believe working with a woman sometimes even better, but not absolutely better. It all depends on the personality and background and quality. So we should make a lot of the male beliefs that gender is not thing. I really want to find the right person and fine person and a good person. I think that is really what important. So I'm trying to helping more boys and males, and then they can have a better image of the female because they are inspired by me. And they would love to working with more women in the future. So to make more women in our field, I think we all women should inspire more boys and males also together. So that is the really important part, I believe.
Wonderful. Yes, I think it's important to know that everyone has something to contribute, no matter who they are and how they were brought up and what experiences they have. Everyone has something to contribute. So thank you very much to all of you for being part of this today. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to our audience. Thank you to World Space Week for hosting this panel. It's been wonderful to be here with you today. I hope you all have a wonderful time participating in the other World Space Week activities. And thank you very much for your interest. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thanks so much.